This is my review of Mob Psycho 100. Okay, so seeing as I have reviewed the Writer One's other show, One Punch Man, I thought I would review his lesser known show, Mob Psycho 100. So if you don't know what Mob Psycho 100 is, it's about, unlike One Punch Man, which is a bit more about being the world's strongest hero, Mob Psycho 100 is about being the more well-rounded as a person. So in the world of Mob Psycho 100 exists spirits, malevolent entities that could destroy the world with their powers if left unchecked. And then there are several people on the opposite side of the spectrum whose task themselves with dealing with those spirits and actually do have psychic powers to boot. We call them espers. Reigen Arataka is not one of them. Okay, so Reigen Arataka is a very obvious con man who lies and cheats and tells everybody that he knows what he's doing when in fact he actually doesn't. And this is showcased in a job he takes very early on in the episode, despite having no way to deal with it, as his primary method of defeating spirits is salt, which doesn't work, and that is established very early that he does in fact have no idea what he's talking about, but does in fact play up a big game, making himself seem like he's actually knows what he's talking about when he in fact doesn't. So he's asked by a local woman to deal with this evil spirit for her, and the boyfriend is very skeptical on that matter. And then they find out that the evil spirit is actually legit, and realizing that his methods are unable to deal with it, Reigen calls in his specialty, his protege, Shigeo Kageyama, otherwise known as Mob. So he calls in Mob, who shows up and easily deals with the evil spirit, and then berates Reigen on bringing him in at the last minute, and then asks Reigen why he didn't deal with the evil spirit, to which Reigen points out that he is kind of on a whole different level, which he isn't, but he explains to Mob that he's on a whole different level from other espers, and points out that if he did use his psychic powers, he would probably melt anything in the vicinity. And also points out that the whole reason he took Mob under his wing is to train him to better use his powers, while at the same time pointing out that he should never use them on people. And Mob does keep that end of the promise, and from this point, the series kind of establishes that while Mob does have psychic powers, he never actually uses them except for when he's on a job. So it establishes that he does indeed just go about his life like a normal person. He has a family that he goes back to deal with, and he has a little brother named Ritsu. And he also just goes through life, and he has a crush, Tsubomi. But other than that, he's just a normal person. He has psychic powers, yes, but he doesn't use them, and I like this concept. It establishes that yes, the main character does have psychic powers, but he doesn't use them in his daily life. He just uses them for when he's on the clock. And I like that. That's an interesting concept for a character. Mob knows he was born at the top, but he chooses not to use his powers because his powers are established to just be something he can do. And it has really no bearing on him being better than anyone else. It just establishes that yes, he is just in fact some kid with psychic powers, but that's the only thing he can do, and he's just an extension of what he can already do. So we see him go throughout his daily life doing exactly that, establishing that he is just a normal person. When he gets another call from Reigen, who invites him to go help him take out some evil spirits that have made a residence in a old abandoned tunnel that nobody uses anymore. So he deals with the spirits, while at the same time pointing out that a normal person would be in grave danger if they just wandered in there, which Reigen definitely is, and almost wanders in without Mob before realizing just how close he came to being dead. So Reigen has Mob deal with the spirits, only to run into the leader, a spirit named Boss, who establishes that he and his crew were driving through the tunnel when they slipped on a banana peel and died. So so he and his biker gang all drove through and died, and Mob eventually realizes that the spirit is about to hurt Reigen and deals with it. But before he can finish exercising it, the spirit establishes that he's not actually the master of the group in the tunnel, and that there's actually a spirit far deeper in that is actually controlling all the evil spirits. And while Reigen obviously doesn't believe him, believing that he in fact is lying, Mob is quite quick to realize that what he's saying is actually the truth, and goes to deal with the evil spirit, much at the behest of both Boss and Reigen, who point out that he probably shouldn't be going in there alone, despite how powerful he is. But sure enough, Mob, despite being eaten by the evil spirit, comes out unscathed, and after giving Boss a picture belonging to him and enabling his crew to go to the afterlife and rest in peace, he and Reigen go and get some ramen and pork cutlets. So it establishes that Mob does have psychic powers, but he's just a person, while at the same time establishing that Reigen, despite having no idea what psychic powers actually are or how to use them, establishes that he is indeed mentoring Mob on how to actually use his psychic powers, even though he has none of his own. So yeah, it's quite the interesting duo. A middle school student who actually has psychic powers but chooses not to use them, versus a self-proclaimed psychic who has no powers whatsoever yet claims to be the world's most powerful psychic, and the two do have a certain dynamic to them. So this episode basically just establishes that yes, Mob does indeed have psychic powers, he just doesn't use them in his everyday life. And that's an interesting little note to end on, that yes, Mob could use his psychic powers in his everyday life to make himself look cooler than he actually is, but he doesn't. And that's makes him, because as I said, the whole point of the series is to make him a more well-rounded character. So establishing that Mob does have psychic powers and never uses them is setting up a lot of plot lines for the later episodes, which is that Mob is just trying to become a more well-rounded person, and that comes into play several times throughout the course of the series, despite the fact that he's basically an exorcist for a job, and that's the only time he uses his powers. But it's interesting, and I like it, and considering that I have reviewed One Punch Man and didn't even touch this show until late last year, I think I would have benefited actually reviewing it, because I do like the work that One actually does, and I do like his stories. And also, I should establish that there are quite a few crossovers between One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 in the manga at the very least. Although not exactly in the form, mostly in the form of little small cameos, which you will notice if you watch through the first episode of Mob Psycho 100 and are actually paying attention, and have also actually watched One Punch Man. But I like the series because it does establish that yes, psychic powers are a thing, but that don't make you any better than anybody else. I like that concept, and that's a cool little concept for a character. So yeah, I like the story. I will continue to be reviewing it, even though I did get into the show a little bit late, and I will definitely continue to review it. So if you guys do indeed enjoy Mob Psycho 100 and are getting ready to rewatch it with me and actually kind of establish that it is an interesting little series, and do indeed enjoy the show and want to give them your thoughts on what you think about it, then what do you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also check out my Patreon in the description below as well. Link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace! He obviously accepts because of pride reasons, and goes and confronts Samurai Flamenco at the amusement park where Masayoshi first reviewed that he knows his knowledge of everything about action scene. And Joji